Welcome back to Ag Enterprise Management. I'm going to be your lecturer, Matthew Johnson. If you haven't done so already, make sure you check out the course website and the syllabus. This section we're going to be talking about direct marketing case study, community supported agriculture, CSA. Just kind of a very specific topic that's pretty popular with agriculture. It's been getting more and more popular, especially here in Hawaii in the past 4 to 5 years. So we're going to be talking a little bit about how it can be used as a marketing strategy for local farms. So talking about learning outcomes. So overview of the module, we're going to learn about the history, strategy, and skills needed to run a successful community-supported agriculture program. Also go over the structure and organization as well as specific marketing techniques for a CSA. So you're going to learn about the CSA, how it's been used as a strategy for farms to market and finance their farming operations. So let's talk a little bit about definition of community-supported agriculture. And there's a lot of different definitions. There's been some changes to CSA. We're going to be talking about some of those variations. So CSA, it's an agriculture and community development movement that was developed to serve the dual purpose. One is a stable marketing opportunity for growers, and as a way to reconnect consumers with the sources of their food and foster closer personal relationships between farmers and their communities. So as I mentioned, there's a few variations in CSA. So traditionally, CSA started off as a single farm that before the beginning of a season, before they'd buy their seeds and till the ground, they'd go out and they'd get a bunch of shareholders to purchase some shares of their upcoming harvest. So they reach out to community members, they pay a lump sum amount of money, and then this is giving the farm the startup capital that they need to purchase all of their inputs, seeds, fertilizers, whatever other things they need, allow them to till the ground, get it ready, and then go ahead and plant. And then throughout the season, as the farm had a harvest, those individuals, the community members that had purchased shares, would get a percentage of that harvest as their payment throughout the season. So it'd be a payment of a lump sum amount of money in the beginning, and then throughout the season that they would then get a percentage of that harvest. But as all things, there's been different variations created. So what I just described is typically what you call your membership share model. Then you have a subscription model, and this is similar to partly of what we do with Oahu Fresh, where instead of requiring an upfront payment from our members, we just do a week-to-week subscription. So there's no buy-in as there traditionally has been with your CSA model. So this provides a little more incentive for the customer, where they don't have to put down a large sum of money in the beginning. And then we have multiple farm brokers. This is also what Oahu Fresh does as well, where you have companies that are not the farmers themselves, but rather they have a network of farms that they're working with. So they're going out and bringing in the different members, setting up a variety of different types of subscription packages, and then putting together different boxes or bags of produce from a variety of different farms instead of just the one farm. All right, let's talk a little bit about the benefits of a CSA program. So typically provide greater economic viability for the farm. So with community member commitment, CSA relationships may help to ensure the economic viability of regional agriculture by assuring regional direct market outlets for smaller scale producer growers unable or disinterested in competing in the wholesale produce market. CSA share prices are often a compromise between wholesale prices and retail prices, thereby giving consumers a bargain while giving the farmer a larger share of the food dollar than selling through a typical middleman. If shares are sold before the season, the farmer has increased revenue at the beginning of the season when input costs are high and the farmer may also have a sense of the amount to plant ahead of season as the produce has been pre-sold. So ideally, they know exactly how much produce they need to go ahead and plant based on the sales that they've already incurred. Another benefit also provides an increased consumer contact with agriculture and therefore awareness of and appreciation for farmland and for the growing practices used. So the whole idea is know your farmer, know your food. So the idea is if you're participating in a CSA type program, you care about where your food's coming from. You want to be a little bit closer to the farm instead of just going to a regular grocery store like Safeway or Costco and just buying whatever produce. Another benefit is increased consumer contact with agriculture and therefore awareness and appreciation for farmland and for the growing practices used. Also provides an increased awareness and appreciation of seasonal limitations of regional food production. Right, so you also get a better sense of what's actually available. So here in Hawaii, there's certain crops that just aren't going to grow, such as apples, grapes. So by being part of a CSA, you understand, you see, these are the crops coming from here, and you also may be introduced to crops that maybe you're not that familiar with. So some traditional Hawaiian staple crops such as taro or breadfruit, you probably will see those in a CSA program, but you may not see them if you go to a larger retail shop like Costco. Also provides an increased consumer awareness of the differences in food quality. Right? So hopefully you're seeing a much higher level of food, more nutritious food, since it's coming from typically a closer proximity than if you're buying food from a large retail supermarket. Also provides the development of personal relationships between growers and community members. So, the idea is that maybe you're visiting the farm that you're getting your CSA from, or you're going to farm-to-table dinner events. All about creating those connections and having more awareness about the food, the farmer, and the challenges that they may be dealing with. And so this also applies then to the farming practices. So there's a lot of conversation now about organic versus conventional. And so with the CSA program, you can have a better idea of how that food is being grown. So you can have that conversation with the farm. You can go out and visit the farm and see what they're doing and really get that understanding of what's happening with your food. CSA programs also contribute to social justice and community development. So in the membership share model, a farmer may make the true cost of production known to a potential shareholder group and may be fairly compensated for specific social services provided by the farm. So once again, it's all about knowing the farmer, knowing your food. So if consumers are saying they want organic, the idea is that by having this relationship with their farmer, that they'll actually get to learn and see what are those true costs. What does it mean to actually be certified USDA organic? There's a lot of work and a lot of costs associated with that. So hopefully by building that relationship, consumers appreciate and understand that, hey, maybe the items in the CSA cost a little bit more than they would at maybe Costco. That's because they're understanding what are all the actual costs and the challenges that go into making that bag of food. Let's talk a little bit about the roles and responsibilities of operating a CSA. All right, so irregardless of the type of CSA program or the variation, you need to have your farmer operators. So these are the individuals that are managing agricultural production systems. So they're doing the crop planning, managing the work crew, equipment. They're engaging day-to-day field activities. Then you got someone who's going to be the CSA manager. So they're managing the public relations, shared distribution, community outreach, billing, membership recruitment, newsletter production, special events coordination. A manager is recommended for all CSAs with more than 200 members. All right, so this is going to be the person who's handling the customer service and making sure that the produce is making its way to the end customers, especially if you're going to be working with different drop locations and whatnot. Another responsibility you're going to have is the field crew labor. So they're going to be doing the field work, operating the equipment, doing the planting, irrigation, cultivation, harvest, packing, and also maybe helping with the distribution and delivery. Then you need to have a core group of members. So these are the customers. So depending on the CSA model, it can average from 5 to 12 people and includes the farmers and the CSA shareholders. So they may accept responsibilities including the administrative work. They also may help with special events, but they also may help get the word out. So different drop locations, say at a school, you may have someone there who's responsible for getting the word out about the CSA to the different family members that go to that school. And then you're going to have your drop site hosts. So these are the individuals that, whether it may be a restaurant or a cafe, as I mentioned before, a school. So these are the individuals who are receiving different CSA boxes or bags, if that's the model for the CSA, to have different pickup locations. They're going to help communicate to members and just make sure that the final handoff happens appropriately. Okay, we mentioned before that there's different variations of CSAs, but there's also different types of CSAs. And that's been the neat thing, where traditionally you'll have a mixed vegetable CSA that may have a rotating amount of lettuces and other greens, carrots, and whatnot. But you can also have a fruit and vegetable CSA, so this might be mixing in a variety of fruit with the vegetables. But then there's really any other kind of food products can be turned into a CSA. So this could be grains, beans, or seed. Right? So this could be depending on the kind of farm and also location. That probably you don't really see too many farms focusing on these kind of crops here in Hawaii, but on the mainland, this kind of CSA could work out. You could also have a meat, a dairy, or bread CSA. So we tried to do this once before with the Wahoo Fresh, doing a pork CSA. So where we would take an entire pig carcass and break it down, and then offer the different kinds of cuts as a CSA. So instead of an individual having to take an entire pig, we would offer those cuts to different CSA members. You also can have a multi-farm CSA, which I mentioned is what Oahu Fresh does. So instead of just one farm that's responsible for providing all the different items that go in the bag, you can have a network of farms that you are sourcing from to create the CSA bags. And you could also have a full diet CSA. Right? So this could include, instead of just the fruits and vegetables, you may have additional items like your eggs and maybe cereals and meats and a whole variety of different things. So really, it all comes down to what kind of products are available and what the demand is from potential CSA customers. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges associated with operating a CSA. So one of the biggest challenges with the CSA, especially if it's a single farm CSA, is production complexities. So in order to provide for the desires of your shareholders, many CSA operations produce more than 30 different crops. This makes crop planning, cultivation, harvest, crop rotation very complex, and thus requires a great deal of knowledge and management oversight. There's also administrative complexities. So communicating with the consumers, members, shareholders, doing the building, distribution of shares, coordinating community support events, all require significant amounts of time and skills in building a social organization. Turnover. So turnover in consumers, members, shareholders. So as a CSA shareholder, do not always continue from year to year. Recruitment is an ongoing responsibility, especially if it's a weekly subscription or a monthly subscription. Shareholder retention rates average at only 60 to 70%. So it's requiring you to constantly be finding new members and getting the word out about your program. There's also the pressure of providing high quality and diversity in the shares on a weekly basis. So you have to constantly mix up what's in the bag, and the quality needs to be there week in and week out. Labor challenges. So CSA farms are almost continually planting and harvesting a wide diversity of crops throughout the growing season. As with any fresh vegetable or fruit operation, harvesting, weed management, and post-harvest handling on a CSA farm represent a large proportion of total farm labor and require careful oversight. Then you have the challenge of community involvement. So involving community members in farm labor activities require additional training and management oversight. So some farms will try to bring out the community members and have volunteer work days. And that can be really good to have quote unquote free labor, but you have to have a system in place for being able to manage the potentially unskilled volunteers who are showing up at the farm. Then you have land security. Like other forms of sustainable agriculture, which involve considerable investment of time, money, materials, and investment in development of soil fertility and infrastructure, CSA operations share the challenge of access to affordable lands close to urban areas where CSA farming usually thrives. Innovative ways of creating affordable and secure access to land are being developed and addressed all the time. So this is especially a challenge on the island of Oahu, where there's a lot of pressure on land. Land is expensive. We have a limited amount of land, and like we saw out in the Eva Plains with that land, which was typically known as some of the best agricultural land in the state, is now being developed over into suburban neighborhood homes. Then we also have competition from box schemes. So a lot of times we have a farm that has a traditional CSA program, competition from groups like Oahu Fresh, which are, instead of being the farm, are really representing a network of farms. So especially here in Oahu, there's been a lot of new CSA programs popping up. You have new farmers going through the Go Farm program. They're trying out a CSA program. So it's constantly new challenges that make the CSA program difficult, but still worthwhile as a potential alternative marketing opportunity for local farms. Okay, that's it for CSA case study. Make sure you check out the course website to see what are the assignments. There's also posted up some other videos and readings for you to check out. Thanks so much.